Alright, I'm going to pile in now. You mean consolidate? Pile in, consolidate, whatever. The objective marker is mine. Actually, you can't really go onto the objective marker.
You go on the objective marker.
Seriously? Seriously? Mother funny how we are almost 2.5 years into 10th edition and there's still a lot of the core rules that are unclear to most people. 40k is a very complex and highly confusing game sometimes, and there are some rules that are written better than others, and there's this one rule that I see everyone misplay at some point. Just recently I watched a stream where a well-known high competitive player just misplayed the consolidation rule, so I felt compelled to make this video. So in today's video we will finally figure out how consolidation actually works, how you can use it to your advantage, what things everybody plays wrong, and I will show you various examples with real-life 40k miniatures on an actual tabletop and some situations that I bet you've never seen before. My name is Damien Cooper and welcome to High Stakes 40k, where we are all in on Warhammer. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's start with the difference between consolidating and piling in, because this is where the confusion already starts. A pile-in is a 3-inch move that you can use to get closer to your enemies when you activate your unit in the fight phase. In order to be eligible to make a pile-in move, your unit has to have ended a successful charge, or they need to be within engagement range of an enemy unit in the fight phase. The pile-in move is just there to get your models closer to all enemy units so that everybody can fight. But this has nothing to do with a consolidation move. A consolidation move is what happens after your unit has fought, and you can either use it to get into engagement range with another enemy unit, or if that's not possible, you go towards an objective marker. And we will talk about this in detail now. In order for your unit to be eligible to make a consolidation move, there are some requirements that your unit has to fulfill in order to do so. The number one requirement is that your unit was able to actually fight. This could happen in one or two ways. Number one, you made a successful charge move in the charge phase. Number two, you were eligible to fight in the fight phase by being within engagement range of one or more enemy units. Here there are some specific scenarios where your unit is eligible to fight and thus consolidate, even though in the fight phase there are no models around to actually fight with. In this example scenario, we have a battle wagon that made a successful charge into 2 Khorne Berserkers, and we used a tank shock stratagem. And by doing so, we deal 4 mortals to the 2 Khorne Berserkers and kill the entire unit. Now when the fight phase comes around, there are no enemy units within our reach, so we technically are not fighting anyone. But since we made a successful charge move, we are eligible to fight, and we basically just fight the air. And after we have finished all of our attacks, even though there is nothing around, we are still eligible to consolidate. Noted, even if we killed the Khorne Berserkers, but there is another unit of Khorne Berserkers within 4 inches of our battle wagon, instead of making a consolidation move, when the fight phase comes around, we will do the pile-in move first. Because with the pile-in move, we can move 3 inches, thus get within engagement range of an enemy unit, and then we can actually fight them. Another example would be that we charge an enemy unit with more than one of our own units. Let's say we charge the 2 Khorne Berserkers with the battle wagon as well as a unit of Beast Snaggers. Now we activate the Beast Snaggers first, the Beast Snaggers kill all the Khorne Berserkers, and now when it comes around for the battle wagon to fight, there are no enemy units around to fight anymore. But since we made a successful charge move with the battle wagon, it is eligible to fight, it will fight the air again, and then it is eligible to consolidate afterwards. Okay, back to our consolidation requirements. Now that our unit has charged, piled in, fought, now we are eligible to consolidate. But we need to meet more requirements. In order for our unit to be eligible to make a consolidation move, we need our unit to be able to end the consolidation move within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. If this requirement can be met, we need to move at least one of our models within engagement range of that enemy unit. And if we can base to base, then we will also need to do so. Notably, we don't have to move any of our other models. As soon as we meet the requirements of getting within engagement range of one or more enemy units, we can then individually choose to either move any of our other models or not move them at all. Granted, we still keep coherency. But if we do choose to consolidate with any of our models, there are more conditions to be met. As soon as we choose to consolidate with one of our models, it must end this movement closer to the closest enemy model and also keep coherency to the rest of its unit. This is not optional. So in no way ever you are allowed to move your model in a consolidation move, and it is not going closer to the closest enemy model. And this is where it gets weird sometimes, and this is also where the confusion starts, because we are talking about units in the first condition, but then we're talking about models in the second, and there is a difference here. For the first condition to be met, our unit needs to end within engagement range of an enemy unit. But then, when we individually choose to move our models in our unit, it is model closer to the closest enemy model, not unit. So in our example, our unit of beast snaggers can consolidate into the Death Guard Rhino, because we can meet the condition of ending our consolidation move within engagement range of an enemy unit. But then if you want to consolidate with the beast snaggers that are further away from the Rhino, they must end their movement closer to the closest enemy models, which in this case is the Plague Marines and not the Rhino. And here is where it gets weird. Because in order for our models to be able to make a legal consolidation move, they must end their movement closer to the closest enemy model. They also need to keep coherency. They also must end their movement in base-to-base contact with the closest enemy model if they can. But nowhere is it written that we must end within engagement range of the closest enemy model. So here, if our beast snagger is outside of 3 inches of the Plague Marines, we still must need to end our movement closer to the Plague Marines, but we don't need to move within engagement range of them. So we can just move slightly towards them and not engage them at all. If that Plague Marine, however, was within 3 inches of our beast snagger, we can only consolidate that beast snagger model if we get into base-to-base content with the Plague Marine. And we must do so. So in our scenario, we obviously want to consolidate into the Rhino, but we don't want to engage with the Plague Marines because then they get to hit us and they will likely kill us. So what we can do here is we move the beast snagger that is closest to the Rhino, engage the Rhino, and just not move any of the models that would have to go into base-to-base contact with the Plague Marines. And that we can only do if we don't need to move any models to keep coherency. So if by moving our beast snagger boys into engagement range with the Rhino we would lose coherency, then we would have to move the models further back, but they must end their movement closer to the Plague Marine unit. And since we are within 3 inches of them, we will unfortunately have to base them. So note here that in this particular scenario, there is no way for us to just consolidate into the Death Guard Rhino without also engaging the Plague Marines. If we can, however, move our beast snaggers within engagement range of the Death Guard Rhino without breaking coherency, then we can do so and we don't have to move the models further in the back, and therefore we don't have to engage with the Plague Marines. And these little maneuvers can sometimes be game-changing. Let's take our beast snaggers for example. They charged and killed one of the Death Guard's units, and then they consolidate into 2 heavy Blight Launcher drones. Now in the opponent's turn, the Blight Launchers can shoot into their own combat because they only have blast weapons. But none of the other Death Guard army can shoot our beast snaggers because they are engaged with one of the Death Guard units. So now we put our opponent in a difficult position. Either they fall back both of their drones, but then none of them can shoot, but the rest of the army can shoot our beast snaggers, or they stay in combat and maybe don't have any option to kill our beast snaggers, and then our beast snaggers will kill their drones. So here it's really important to know and also follow all the little steps to consolidation. Let's take this very weird situation for example. Our unit of 8 bound just killed a beast boss, and they are surrounded by opponents. So now we want to consolidate, and we can easily get within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. But as soon as we move one of our 8 bound towards one of the opponents, then we can't move any of our other 8 bound, because they must need to end their consolidation move closer to the closest enemy model. And this we cannot do because we are never allowed to move further away from the closest enemy model in a consolidation move. But we are also not allowed to break coherency. So here we cannot meet all the conditions necessary for our unit of 8 bound to make a legal consolidation move. And therefore they can't move at all. And this is how consolidation sometimes gets a little bit easier by just remembering. If you are making a consolidation move by moving your unit within engagement range of one or more enemy units, none of your models are allowed to move further away from the closest opponent's model. Because if you do so, then you are definitely playing consolidation wrong and you're not making a legal consolidation move. Moving on to our second condition, and that is tied to an objective marker. If our first condition, getting into engagement range with one or more enemy units, cannot be met because there are no enemy units around, then we can make a consolidation move of up to 3 inches towards the closest objective marker, but only if we can get in range of that objective marker. So one thing you can definitely not do is just say, okay, I'm going to consolidate and I'm just going to move straight towards an objective marker. Maybe that even gets me behind a wall so that I can't be shot. You can only do so if you actually get within range of that objective marker. And one thing that a lot of people also play wrong here is that it's not an either or. It's you have to get within engagement range of one or more enemy units. And if this condition cannot be met, then you are allowed to move towards an objective marker. But one thing that I see people play wrong all the time is that they choose not to engage an enemy unit and instead go towards an objective marker. But that is not an option. So here in our example, we have our unit of beast snaggers again, and one end is closer to an objective marker, the other end is closer to a unit of corn berserkers. You cannot choose to just consolidate half of your unit onto the objective marker and not move the other models, because you could get within engagement range of an enemy unit, so you have to. So now we only have 2 options. Number 1, we do engage the corn berserkers and let them hit us for free, or we don't move at all. But there are no other options. Another very important note for this example is also that we can't do both. We can't choose to engage the corn berserkers and also go onto the objective. Because remember, we need to end our movement closer to the closest enemy model. And by moving our beast snagger towards the objective marker, we would move away from the closest enemy model and thus not meet our conditions. So here our beast snaggers are never allowed to move towards the objective marker. Here's another thing where I oftentimes see people make mistakes. And this has to do with timing and also the eligibility of fighting. Let's say we have an ongoing fight with our flash kits and a unit of corn berserkers. Then it is our turn as the orc player and we charge the corn berserkers with a unit of beast snaggers. We end up killing the corn berserkers and now our beast snaggers have made a charge move, they have finished all of their attacks and now they are eligible to consolidate. Our flash kits, however, even though they were in engagement range at the start of the fight phase, they never got to activate, because they haven't made a charge move. So now when it's their turn to activate, there are no enemy units around. So we can't do a pile-in move and we can't do a consolidation move because our flash kits were never eligible to fight. So this is where I see a lot of people play this wrong, because they killed the corn berserkers with the beast snaggers, and since they were in engagement range at the start of the fight phase, they think that now the flash kits can also consolidate and move towards the objective marker. But they never activated, because once it was their turn to activate, there were no units around, so they're not eligible to fight, thus they can't consolidate at all. Another really important thing to note here is that your unit cannot consolidate while they are still in base-to-base contact, because models that are in base-to-base are not eligible to consolidate at all. It's important to note that consolidation always happens immediately after your unit finished making its attacks. In our next example, we have an ongoing fight between a unit of knobs, a unit of flash kits, and a unit of corn berserkers. And since it is the World Eater's turn, the orc player gets to activate one of their units first. And they will choose to activate the knobs first. Unfortunately, the knobs fail to kill all of the Corn Berserkers. Now, the Corn Berserkers get to activate because we are alternating. The Corn Berserkers will put all of their attacks into the Flesh Gits and only kill 2 of them. Now the Orc player comes around to activate the Flesh Gits. The Flesh Gits are more successful and they will kill the remaining Corn Berserkers. Now, our Flesh Gits are eligible to consolidate after they finished making their attacks, but the Knobs are not. Because when the Knobs finished making all of their attacks, they were still base to base with the Corn Berserkers, so they're not eligible to consolidate because they are base to base and they can't move anywhere. And again, here is where I see a lot of players make mistakes, because they think now that the fight is over, all of them get to consolidate, the Knobs are free and they get to move towards the objective marker. But in fact, you only get to consolidate immediately after finish making your attacks. And when the Knobs finished making their attacks, they were still base to base with the Corn Berserkers. Remember the weird scenario from earlier where we had our unit of 8 bounds not be able to actually consolidate into one of the enemy units because it would break coherency? But now there's a second option, because they could get into range with an objective marker. So since condition number 1, getting into engagement range with an enemy unit, cannot be met successfully because we would break coherency or move away from the closest enemy models, we are eligible to move towards an objective marker. So here we created a really weird and niche scenario where even though our unit is surrounded by opponents, we can still move towards the objective marker because even though we are surrounded, we cannot meet all the conditions of getting into engagement range with one or more enemy units without breaking coherency or by not moving closer to the closest enemy model. Granted, this is such a unique scenario that it rarely comes up, but there are scenarios that are weird because Games Workshop. Let's quickly summarize what we learned here. There is a difference between a pile-in move and a consolidation move. Consolidation happens after you have fought, pile-in happens before you get to fight. You are always eligible to fight after you made a successful charge move, even though there are no enemy models around, and therefore you're also eligible to consolidate. In order for your unit to be eligible to consolidate at all, you need to end your consolidate move within engagement range of one or more enemy units by not breaking coherency, and if you choose to then individually move any of your models, all of them need to end their movement closer to the closest enemy model. Only if this condition cannot be met successfully, you are allowed to move towards an objective marker, but only if you do get in range of that objective marker with your 3-inch consolidation move. You are only eligible to consolidate if you are not already in base-to-base contact. Any model that is already in base-to-base with an opponent's model is not eligible to move at all. And lastly, timing matters. You will consolidate only immediately after finishing all of your attacks and not at the end of the fight phase or after another unit has killed the unit that you were in contact with. There you have it. I hope this once and for all cleared all the confusion about consolidation, and now you know when your opponent is making a mistake and you can tell them that you watched this video and now you know better, and you can maybe use it to your advantage and just educate your opponents so that we all grow together and get better at Warhammer 40k. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, then please give this video a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what rule you think is very poorly written and you still don't understand after 2.5 years of playing Warhammer 40k in 10th edition, because maybe I can make a video about this, clearing this up as well. And if you learned something today, then consider subscribing, because there will be more tutorials as well as tier lists, battle reports, and much more about the game that we love, because here at High Stakes 40k, we are all in on Warhammer.